A text says, "You're on my mind." A bouquet from 1-800-Flowers says, "You're my everything." Heartfelt moments belong in the real world, not just your phone. For 50 years, 1-800-Flowers has helped millions of people make memories that'll last a lifetime with gifts they'll cherish forever. Their expertly curated arrangements and gift baskets ship nationwide with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't wait for the next big moment. Make it when you visit 1-800-Flowers.com/SXM today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/SXM.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome back to a very important episode of Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined, as always, by Matthew Best Ball Daddy Betz.
What? Normally, I can kind of like get a sense of what the nickname is going to be. I can tell you right now, I did not expect it to be Best Ball Daddy, but I am a father of 3, and I'm drafting a lot of best ball teams, so spot the lie. You tell me. Man, 3 days, Kyle. 3 days till June 1st, which in the NFL world, you know, June 1st has been the A.J. Brown deadline.
Yeah.
In our world, brother, I mean, that is the start of summer right there. June 1st rolls out. You're on the deck. You're outside. You're at the beach. You're at the pool with the kids. Take out your phone. You open the app, and you are just scrolling UDK blurbs. You're looking at rankings. You're looking at the best ball primer. Life could not be better. June 1st, baby. 3 days away.
It is a point in the calendar where a lot of people maybe don't have much going on. Maybe they're like, man, June 1st, I don't know what's really that important. I realized that as you were describing that scene for somebody out there, they're scrolling through their apps, I want you to still be present with your family. Like, I want your children to know you're there and that you're also somewhere else. Like, it's possible to inhabit 2 spaces, and that's what we're trying to preach to people.
That is a tough skill. You know, if you're a new dad out there or anything, like, it took me a couple years to master that, you know? You're there, you're not there, you're kind of there. It's so funny. June 1st actually, obviously is the UDK release. But it's a big week in the Betz household next week. The twins' birthday is the 7th, turning 4. My wife's birthday is the 4th. It's a big week, and it's going to be unfortunate because I'm going to have to kind of ignore them at the same time, you know? So, dad of the year, maybe next year. But this year, it's all about the UDK.
You can't win them all. You say, hey, I won the puppy, but I lost as a father. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Now, Houston, my son's birthday's on the 8th. My other son's on the 20th. My anniversary's on the 23rd. So June's a big deal. And I do feel pretty locked into a lot of the takes that we have. We will share on this episode 10 best ball insights for 2026. Because when you put together a top 10 list, the people flood in. I'm telling you, they're stopping what they're doing. And they're like, another top 10 list? That is what podcasting was made for.
This sells, let me tell you what.
It certainly does. But we will give you some insights that we found writing our best ball primer, which is found in the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus, all of our rankings, everything you can find in there, including all the projections that we use. So on the back end, the projections that Andy, Mike, and Jason make for season-long stuff, it actually informs what we do in best ball. And one of the things we do on the back end for Betz and myself is we look at some of those projections and we kind of say, historically, what has this player done in this draft spot and do they warrant it? So we will probably have more content that we roll out throughout the summer. We can say, hey, we're projecting this player for, only a 22% target share, and yet he's being drafted in a spot in your draft where you basically need him to have upwards of 25%. So that's just one of the things that, like, as you're playing around with the UDK, as you're looking through the different player profiles, the hundreds of videos which have been refreshed this year, Betz and I were playing around with that earlier, just know that, like, there's so many different areas that you could scroll down, and the Best Ball Primer is really what we want to point you to because it comes out ASAP.
Yes, sir. I also love, too, the projections. It's so clean in the app. Like, when you go to the player's profile, you can see it, like, literally everything that we're projecting for as far as, receptions, yardage, touchdown totals, rushing yardage, like everything. And so people have asked me in Discord at times, like, hey, what are you guys projecting for X player? The fun thing about this now is that you guys will actually be able to see this stuff literally anytime it's updated in the app online. And it's a good way to source season-long prop bets as well. So I know people have asked me about that. You can do that yourself, cross-reference the books, make some wagers. Remember, we subscribe to undersonly.com on this show. But if you wanted to take an over, there's a couple that caught my eye. We'll talk about it as the summer goes on, I'm sure. But also a good resource for that as well if you wanted to source your own prop bets.
This wouldn't be you referencing one Cam Ward.
It might be.
Okay. I do need to make sure that people understand a median projection for a player is very different than what we're saying this sportsbook is laying for a season-long line, because you're baking in so much more with risk, and there's a reason that we always talk about unders, because at the end of the day, you need so many things to go right. You need a player to stay healthy. You also need the trajectory of the team. Like, I'm looking at some of the Cardinals receiving lines and just asking myself, this team is going to be so bad like they were last year. And yet I feel like we could legitimately see at least 3 quarterbacks this year. And that does change the makeup of the team. And it definitely changes the makeup if Carson Beck is seeing more than 3 or 4 starts at the end of the year. So it gets me to look at also best ball stacks and what Cardinals teams might be in the last month or so of the season. It's like, this is a different team.
Yeah, and that's the tricky thing too, is like, that's a good example of some of this stuff where the season-long projections and expectations mean more for certain teams, and I think they're generally a little bit more important for like the stable situations. You have data on the players, the play caller, the quarterback, who it is, like all those things. With the Cardinals, for example, like if it goes south, it could go south real quick. And it's one of those situations you look up and you're like, oh, Jacoby started 6 games and Minshew was in there for 4, and then it was Carson Beck to close the year, and it likely went terribly. Same thing with the Jets too. I was looking at them in the primer and just kind of talking through. It's like, man, like there's a lot that like you can kind of squint and see it. Like, what if Geno happens to rebound this year behind a better offensive line with weapons we like? And I think the Jets are kind of doing some good things from a team building perspective. I think they're obviously multiple years away from doing anything significant in terms of real life win-loss, but like you can kind of see it. And then at the same time, you think to yourself, like, man, like if Aaron Glenn can't make it through the first 2 months of the season, would anybody be surprised? Not really. Would anybody be surprised if Frank Reich is not the OC in week 16, 17? Like, no, of course not. So when you're thinking about projecting the team and thinking about median projections for the Cardinals, for the Jets, for some of these unstable situations, they're likely not going to be super, super accurate, right? Because it can bottom out real quick. But then for other teams, like, I don't know, the Lions or the Bears, where you kind of know what's going on, you understand the situation, they're a little more predictable for those sort of things. But yes, just, again, think through range of outcomes and how that could affect teams and players as the year goes on.
Yeah, have you considered that they've already drafted their quarterback of the future with the Jets and 4th-round pick Cade Klubnik?
Oh, man, I can't wait for DFS week 16, 17, 18.
I am rooting for him so much.
Carson Beck, $4,300 on DraftKings.
Cade Klubnik.
40, an even 4K flat. And we're going to have the conversation, Points per dollar, Kyle. It could work.
Man, if I remember, I'm going to try to rewind this part of the conversation, play it for us later. But ultimatedraftkit.com, look at all of our projections. We're going to get right into it.
Best Ball Bonanza.
In the podcasting business, sometimes you have a little opener, little tease, you talk about some stuff, have a quick question. I feel like this is one of those episodes where we just need to get down to business and just a couple guys talking best ball, as the self-proclaimed best ball daddy, as you said.
I'm gonna get a new, for my desk, like a nameplate. I'm just gonna get that on there.
Your wife's gonna hate that so much. So before we get into our list, we're going to count down from 10 to 1 some of our insights that we found writing the Best Ball Primer, looking at different teams, talking about different ways that you could stack teams. I just want to make sure that we remind people that Best Ball rankings are a different animal when you put them together. So we have top 300 lists that Betz and I have in the app and in our website for Underdog. We also have content for DraftKings Best Ball this year, if you are looking for those, from Chris Cash, who does a lot of our DFS stuff in season. But everybody is drafting from the same list per se. If you're on a site like Underdog, it does not mean that every single person is going to draft the same way. Like, you're going to have people in your room that are like, that's weird, that's awkward, I can cross that team off the list. But ADP is something that we try to stay somewhat close to because there's relatively smart people drafting and putting money on drafts, especially in bigger tournaments, in Underdog, and that ADP can be a good guide. So I would say one of the best things to do is to look at our rankings to kind of just see where have we taken certain stances of certain players and certain positions against them. But please, 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 if you see two players ranked right next to each other, it does not mean in every single draft, I need to make sure I take this player above this other person.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The other thing, too, that I was thinking about with some of the ADP discussion in regards to how our rankings work as far as using them as a data point is just like you said, like the market has gotten sharper, I think, year over year. And it's like, generally speaking, you're not going to sneak something by somebody, especially early in drafts, right? Like, feel free to get off the board and get weird, you know, in round 15 through 18 or round 20 on DraftKings. But like, the best players are the best players, and everybody knows that, right? And so, yes, we will have stands and we will have different takes, whether it's injury related, just team level stuff, whatever it may be. But for the most part, you know, you're not going to see any wild rankings discrepancies from us, especially early on. And that's because these are the best fantasy scorers, and the projections in the Ultimate Draft Kit will generally support that. So, yeah, but that's, in my opinion, that's not really where drafts are won or lost, you know, as you go through a portfolio. It's more just drafting as if you're right, building a portfolio a smart way. And if you're drafting for some of these tournaments, understanding the correlation in week 17 and some of the stuff that really matters from the top end level. But yeah, that's a great way, a good reminder just to kind of tie it back together to the ADP discussion and rankings.
For every single team in the Best Ball Primer, we do have their matchups for weeks 15, 16, and 17 if you want to be able to look through those. And Betz and I were joking earlier about a title for like an episode, and I said, Best Ball, it's where I'm mostly right, but when I'm wrong at the wrong time, I'm dead. Or as you wrote, Best Ball, your team was really good, but you didn't have Kyle Pitts, so it didn't really matter.
Oh, man. Kyle Pitts.
Week 15.
Against the Bucks. Knocked me out of a couple pods, unfortunately, but I know for a lot of people out there, it helped them advance, so that's the story every year.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at some of the scores from week 16. There's that Seattle and Los Angeles Rams game that went to overtime. Remember that? Like, that was the Charbonnet game where he picked up the ball, the 2-point conversion. Like, there was also games at the very end of week 17, Chicago and San Francisco. Like, Purdy was like a winner for a lot of people. And then, of course, who could forget my Falcons coming away with a victory against the Rams? People forget last year the Falcons somehow beat the Rams and the Bills.
Where was the game played?
The Bills game obviously was in the Mercedes-Benz. Where was the Rams game?
That was also at Mercedes-Benz.
You betcha, buddy.
I mean, can you imagine an NFL franchise getting off the bus, walking into that stadium and thinking they're going to leave with a W? I mean, could not be me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you just kind of know. You kind of know. Now, completely disregard when we played Miami and you know, where we lost 34-10. Like, don't talk about that game. But I was more bringing it up that these different games in weeks 15, 16, 17, I want to be mostly right. And if we're really honest, there is a level of chaos in this format that nobody can control, and that's okay. So we're going to count down 10 from 1. I'll start us off.
Number 10.
I want to bring up the Ravens because the last 2 years, you could have approached this team in the same way and basically have a similar ADP of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And 1 year, you would have been so right that you would have pummeled the field. And last year, if you would have done the same exact strategy, you would have been torched. Despite like what Henry was and how good Henry was, if you would have tried to stack them together or looked at this team as a team you really wanted, it would have been really, really bad. So just to give you like a number to go with this, in 2024, if you would have stacked Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson together, you would have had a 55% advance rate, meaning just those two players alone would have put you over the top in over half of those leagues. And in 2025, if you would have gone with those two picks inside the top 40, it would have sunk your team. I'm looking at the ADP that we have in front of us right now. Derrick Henry is going in the middle of the second round, RB11. Lamar Jackson is also going around pick 55 as the QB2. So he's a little cheaper than what you would have had to pay last year. The problem with these players is you basically have to say that this new offense under a new coaching staff, a new offensive play caller in Declan Doyle, who we've never seen call plays. We're just assuming he's like a Ben Johnson disciple and he'll be just as good. You're basically saying these two players need to roll because a lot of the rest of the players on this roster are just buried to the point of like, I don't know what to do with the rookies, or even me, who usually takes Rashad Bateman in best ball, is like, is Rashad Bateman still alive? Is he still a thing? So my biggest caution is when I looked at their in-game correlation, it's been negative the last couple years. They've kind of ping-ponged back and forth. There's been very few games where they both crushed. Are you willing to pay for an expensive Ravens stack knowing you're going to get Mark Andrews later? You're not an idiot. But are you going to pay up for like, I'm buying into the Ravens early?
So I think they're super interesting because, like you said, there's that unknown of a new system and a new play caller. Like thinking about the Harbaugh Ravens over the years, you know, they've been a great team, right? Kind of just generally, they've been a great team. But there are moments where they are conservative. There are moments where they rely on the defense. And I'm not sure how repeatable that's going to be, or if that's even what is going to be the game plan. They did hire a defensive-minded head coach in Jesse Minter. So I'm kind of talk about it out of both sides of my mouth. Like I could see that being the case again, but at the same time, like you mentioned with Lamar Jackson and where he goes, I just think his price is mispriced. Like I think he should be closer to Josh Allen than he is. And so I'm like barely taking Josh Allen right now. And it's not because I don't want Josh Allen. It's just like, give me the field to kind of match or beat him at ADP, right? Give me the Lamars, maybe Drake May, potentially Jalen Hurts types. It's like the discrepancy between those quarterbacks to me is too big. And so that's kind of why I am taking some Lamar and paying up. So yeah, I mean, I like both these guys. I think they're both fine where they go as far as the expensive stacks. The nice thing about that too, though, is like if you do leave your draft with one of or both Lamar and Henry, or if you stack up Zay Flowers, you don't have to feel pressured to like find the next Raven until, if you wanted to, like round 18, you know?
Right, the very end.
And I'm just right now like you can take zeros by doing this, but I'm kind of mixing in like one team I do it, I just throw out. The next time I do it, I might take Rashad Bateman. You know, I'm just kind of mixing and matching here and throwing some darts. But that's the nice part about this Ravens stack is that they've got three expensive guys and basically nobody else.
I'm with you. Like I'm looking at where we have like the quarterbacks. Like I'm behind on Josh Allen with you. I'm ahead on Lamar. I'm ahead on Jayden Daniels comparatively to ADP. So it's almost like I would prefer to just go Lamar, Andrews, and then find that third piece later on and just say like that's the part of the offense that I want. I've kind of always been not a Zay guy. And I know we've had some differences on that. Like you've really brought it up over the years. But last year you got a ceiling outcome for Zay Flowers, but he was pretty much meh. Like I'm looking at his score, 53% of the time he was between 8 and 12.5 fantasy points. That's fine if this player is filling your flex. You're drafting him as if he's your wide receiver 2. And at wide receiver 17, that's a little high for me. So I think my preferred route for this team is I'm cool with Lamar. I love Mark Andrews as a tight end 2, and then I'll find a third option later.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's such a tricky thing on Zay because he's so talented. Like you look at his efficiency metrics and everything, like he's becoming a better NFL wide receiver. And I don't think that's the question here or the discussion. It's not his talent. It's just when they're getting close, you know, the game plan. And obviously with Lamar Jackson, you're expecting him to steal some touchdowns too. So the touchdown count is kind of always going to potentially hold him back. But at the same time, like I just think Zay Flowers is kind of due potentially for one of these like, wow, we didn't see that coming seasons. Will it happen this year with the new scheme? Maybe. Who knows? But I generally just bet on the talented players, and Zay is that. So I'm okay with him. Probably a little more in than you.
Okay. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom. Hold my hand.
You hold my hand. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
I realized during that break, I had told myself that I was going to pop open my drink during the break so that nobody would hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I forgot to do that. So
now you have to just be thirsty for another 20 minutes?
No, not at all. I'm just going to do it on the podcast. I mean, there's no way. Jeremy's asleep at the wheel. He's not going to be, it doesn't really matter.
What are we sipping on over there?
This is a Polar Seltzer, not a sponsor.
Could be a sponsor.
Georgia peach flavor.
Classic.
I mean,
classic Georgia guy over there.
I mean, I'm going for it.
Number 9.
All right, Kyle. Let's talk about the Rams. So if you listen to the NFC win totals episode, you've heard that we are taking the under on the favorites to win the Super Bowl.
You pooped on Sean McVay, man.
Terrible play caller, terrible scheme. He is not it. Give me Frank Reich. So the problem for me with the Rams, and this is kind of what I was looking at in the primer, is if you think back to last year with LA, as we kind of got into training camp, remember there was the whole Matthew Stafford back scare. And there was even talks like after the season, they were like, we almost put him on IR. Like there was legit worry about it. Obviously, he was able to overcome it, had an unbelievable season, and this is one of the best offenses in football. And so last year, there were times where you could take Puka Nacua, who, it sounds crazy now, but he would fall to the early part of round 2. I remember some drafts on DraftKings sometimes, like getting him in like the late second round. Devontae was a little bit cheaper. And Stafford, of course, because of his back injury, was buried in ADP, like going off the board at like quarterback 25 at times, right? So when you think about, I got these amazing Ram stacks and they all hit, this is great. At cost last year, it was a very different conversation. Now we look forward to this year and what has happened. Puka, of course, has settled into an early first-round pick. Devontae kind of goes where he goes as far as an early-ish wide receiver. He's not crazy, but he's early enough. And then Stafford is going well above where he was basically ever in best ball and ever in drafts, at least in recent memory since best ball has become so popular. So he is priced up to the point now where the Rams have to do more to pay off what they'd done recently. And I went back since 2020, basically looking at teams that score at least 3.5 touchdowns per game. What did they do the following year? Last year with Stafford, they were at 3.7. His touchdown rate was 7.7%. So since 2020, 16 teams have met that criteria. 12 of the 16 regressed the following year in touchdowns per game. So the expectation here, and the average, by the way, was 0.62. The average, or the expectation rather here, is that the Rams will probably just naturally by regression score fewer touchdowns this year. Yet at the same time, they're more expensive than they were a year ago. And you've got Stafford coming off a career 7.7 touchdown rate. And I look back through his career, like what has he done historically when he's been above 5%? He was at 6.2%. That dropped to 2.8% the year prior. 5.4 down to 4, 5.1 down to the 3s, 6.5 down to 4.9, 6.8 down to 3.3. So when he has bumped up, he's come back down to earth. We see that all the time with quarterbacks, especially at pocket passing quarterbacks. So the Rams are tough, man. Like obviously they're projected for a ton of points this year, but we have natural regression staring us in the face. You've got a quarterback whose back injury isn't going away magically, and he's another year older. So I'm kind of just hands up. Like I don't know what to do with this team. I don't want a full fade, but I definitely don't want to go all in like maybe we were at cheaper costs last year.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out ways with this team that I can invest in. It's like, well, Puka, we're not going to poke holes in that. Devontae, I'm behind ADP. Kyron's fine, but I don't really like investing in a player that's kind of been super inefficient as a receiver, and you kind of can see Blake Corum continue to eat into that opportunity. Matthew Stafford I'm behind. If I could draft Rams tight end as a position, I would like that, but I'm obviously not messing around with the different tight ends. My exposures are incredibly low across the board.
Yeah. And to Devontae's point, like he's always been a good touchdown scorer, so I don't think it's obviously going to just go away. But you look at kind of the outlier 14 touchdowns and the amount of end zone targets he had, it's basically been the most we've seen since that's become a stat. The yardage is really cratered, and it's like, man, I don't want to say bad things about Devontae. He's so good. One of the best receivers in the game the last decade, but he is entering his age 33 season. Generally speaking, even the greats, that's kind of when we start to see it. So I'm worried about the Rams. And there was always, like, in the back of my mind, like McVay came out, remember talking about if we were going to go for this A.J. Brown trade, like Devontae, you might have been traded kind of thing. Like, I feel like when McVay knows, he knows on some of these guys. So my take home here is I will probably be underweight total exposure to the Rams in best ball.
Yeah, when it was Allen Robinson for a year, they're like, okay, we're only doing this for a year. We're out of here. And then it was like, Van Jefferson for a couple years. He couldn't even stay with this guy he picked in the second round.
I can't believe they moved on from him. They could have been great.
Okay, so wait, Sean McVay picked Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, and Gerald Everett as a second round pick. He's more of like a fifth round pick guy, like Puka, Kyron, and the boys.
That's right.
That's where he does his dirty work. Yeah, I'm with you, and maybe we will look stupid with this team, but it's one of the stances that I feel fine about. And you heard it here first. As Matthew said, best ball daddy Betz said, the Rams, if they beat me, they beat me.
I mean, you don't want the Rams. Imagine wanting the team projected to win the Super Bowl. You want the Titans.
You are talking a lot about the Titans.
Number 8.
I'm going to quickly talk about the Bears because if you look at their ADP, they have 4 players inside the top 60, and that doesn't even count Caleb Williams. So the weirdest part is that all of the Bears are clustered around rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. They're all just kind of sitting there where you kind of have to double dip or even triple dip into getting this team. You're committing this type of draft capital, and I don't love it.
You just missed a golden opportunity.
Triple dipper?
Yes.
I heard it.
Come on, man. If you think Chili's is ever going to sponsor our show, when do we ever say the term triple dip? Never. I mean, that was our one chance, Kyle. You blew it. Come on.
Yeah. Next time I say the word explosion, I will start it off with quesadilla explosion.
Thank you.
And I would be fine with that. So Chicago jumped. I mean, you saw it with this team, but they jumped from 28th in points per game to 9th in points per game. Caleb Williams set the Bears' all-time passing yardage mark, and he really improved in terms of pressure to sack stuff. Loved that. I think you're really having to make a choice of how you're building this team, and it doesn't always have to be an either-or of, is it Burton I'm picking here, or is it Odunze? Or is it Loveland? Like, they don't have to all cannibalize each other. I think my strongest stance this year is on DeAndre Swift, who I really liked last year. And we've kind of seen like a high floor. This is his highest ADP. I went all the way back to when he was a Lion. It's been a while since we've seen DeAndre Swift be a top 50 pick, which is where he's hovering right now. I think my stance is leaning into the passing game and just believing that either Swift has some regression, the running game has some regression, and they are forced into more shootouts where Caleb, like I'm expecting the passing volume. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Caleb was a top 5 quarterback this year based on just what he can do pass rate wise and hopefully improve a little bit efficiency wise. So I don't like paying this price. And I looked historically to have 3 players inside the top 60 hit a 20% advance rate from the same team. It's like 1 a year. Like, it's very, very rare. So I'm picking my spots. I'm leaning more into the passing game. And I'm kind of down on the Bears running game this year, despite how effective they were last year.
So you're saying that you think they'll regress as far as not be quite as efficient on the ground?
Yes.
I mean, I feel like the one thing nobody's talking about is the loss of, his name is escaping me, their center. They just signed him 2 years ago.
Oh, the former Drew Dahlman?
Yes, thank you.
Former Falcon.
retired
I thought of
unexpectedly.
Olin Kreutz, former Bears All-Pro, like Hall of Fame center. Sorry.
Just a couple guys naming football players, that's what the show is.
Yep.
But that sneakily might matter. Maybe we'll find out. But one of the best in the game, and just decided to hang him up. So we'll see. Yeah, the Bears are tricky. Like, we talked about them on the win totals episode, where it's like they have some natural regression signals coming their way, but at the same time, it's like Caleb in year 2 with Ben Johnson. Like, they could just be great. At these prices, they all have, like, the offense has to be awesome. Like, a middle of the pack offense will not work for these prices. So that's the tricky thing. I'm kind of with you in that it's hard to stack Bears because they are all so expensive. And I think Caleb, we talked about that as well, in a vacuum is a little overpriced for where he goes. So I'm just kind of taking 1 or 2 and then kind of getting out of there. And like you said, I don't want to be so dogmatic in terms of who it is. I like Loveland. I think Burden's interesting. And you brought up Odunze too as a potential value that people are kind of, we do this all the time. Like, you want the new shiny toy. And now, just a couple years into the league, everybody's like, Rome's just kind of old news. So I don't mind him either. So I'm just kind of cycling through, mixing and matching, but the cost is making it kind of tough to stack this team up.
Number 7.
All right. Let's talk Commanders. Kyle, the prices have never been lower.
Buttlicker! Our prices have never been lower!
The Bill Buttlicker special. For now, we'll see if this changes when ADP shifts as we get closer to August, but I'm calling it the Bill Buttlicker special of June. Is the Jayden and Terry stack, which kind of going through, if you guys have known me for a while, I've loved Terry McLaurin basically since he came into the NFL. But last year was like the first time ever I was just out. He had the holdout. If we recall, in August last year, he wanted the new contract. He didn't really practice much in camp.
I drafted 0% Terry McLaurin last year. It was my strongest stance, and I'm not here to victory lap, but more of I could not pay the price.
Right, and we do this all the time. Every year we turn the page and we talk about best ball ADP. It's always a reflection of what just happened. Well, 2 years ago, the stack was incredible. Jayden was unbelievable as a rookie. Terry McLaurin had a career in touchdowns. It was just unbelievable. And so you paid the price, the tax in ADP, and it's like, man, the regression here is just so obvious because if you recall, he had 13 touchdowns, Terry did, on just 117 targets. That was never going to repeat. And then, of course, nobody could predict the injuries that happened, but that just kind of cratered the Commanders as a team. Now, because they were so bad from a box score standpoint and win-loss standpoint last year, their prices are buried. Like, there are times where you can push Jayden in drafts because Terry McLaurin is the only stacking partner. Sometimes you can push him closer to pick 70, pick 75. And that sounds crazy to me for a player that we know can run and put up elite production with his legs. And obviously, Terry McLaurin is the alpha here. So just thinking about the stack, I want to be in this year where it is so cheap. I'm not sure that will hold as we look forward to August and maybe the hype gets there and things like that. But, there's going to be a new scheme here. And I think it's really interesting to think about what David Blau is going to do. We're already hearing rumblings of more under center work for Jayden Daniels. I think we could see more of an innovative route tree from Terry McLaurin. If you recall from the Cliff days, it was, all right, you go line up on the left. We're gonna have the route bush, very limited. It's like short hitches or downfield shots. I think we'll see a lot more pre-snap motion. I think we'll see a lot more play action. And we know historically that elevates the alpha pass catcher and the efficiency for the quarterback. And so for me, I'm interested in that stack very much right now. It's kind of like my first go-to when I'm trying to stack up pass catcher and quarterback in this current landscape of ADP. But the other thing that I noticed in the betting markets that I put in the primer was this Commanders team is favored in just 5 games. Generally, that kind of sounds scary. It's like, well, this team might be terrible. But at the same time, for fantasy, their average implied team total is 16th in the league. So we're expecting kind of middle of the pack here. That tells me the market is projecting this to be a shootout team. A pretty good offense, not great on defense. Generally, that's what we want in fantasy. And so I think Terry and Jayden are the stack that I'll be probably most overweight on right now, at least in this current ADP landscape.
I mean, Bill Buttlicker special. I mean, Wendy's value menu special. It's writing itself. And just to give you another stat with those markets and the implied markets, Washington's games this year, when you look at just the game totals and you average them out, 6th highest average game total, 48.1. that is right below the Rams and right ahead of the Ravens, two teams we've already talked about. So I'm totally in. I like what you're saying when it comes to Jayden. You can kind of push your room because nobody else is thinking about who else they're stacking. So, I mean, I'm even having rooms where like I took Terry and I'm willing to wait until the next like round to take Jayden Daniels because nobody else is willing to do it. They're also just scared at the other pass catching options. And I get that. Like, we're always going to be in on Chig because, we're idiots. But even just like going down the list, like Antonio Williams is kind of probably a favorite of ours of the rookie class. Who knows who else is going to see work here, if it's Jalen Lane, Diami Brown, or Van Jefferson.
I kind of forgot he was on this team. That changes everything.
What if I told you he hasn't scored 10 fantasy points in a game since 2022?
You know what? David Blau and Jayden Daniels are going to change that this year.
They're going to unlock year 7
They're going to unlock Van Jefferson. I'll tell you what, man. If we get a line in week 1, 2.5 catches, oh, brother. The first play of the year, it is on.
Let's do it.
Number 6.
I want to talk about the Browns because when you work through our best ball primer, you will see certain teams that you and I go, you don't really want to stack this team. It's like when I was going through the Cardinals and the Falcons, those are the first 2 teams alphabetically. It's like, man, here's the tough issues of stacking the Cardinals, the quarterbacks. Here's the Falcons. Here's a really tough issue with stacking the quarterbacks and who the other pass catchers are. You could have the same thing with the Browns, and yet the prices we're paying for some of their pass catchers are really, really, really cheap. Like I was looking at rookie wide receivers. You and I were talking earlier. Like in the Underdog best ball era, which has been since 2021, there is a large group of wide receivers that were rookies that were taken as a top 100 pick. Players that, like, in hindsight now, you and I were laughing about Sky Moore as like, okay, Sky Moore, 2nd round pick, but he goes to the Chiefs and he ended up going 95th overall. There's a bunch of other guys, Adonai Mitchell, who we hated his production profile, like all these other guys that their ADP rose to being a top 100 pick. And right now, KC Concepcion, which make sure you say his name with your fingers pinched, is going around pick 115, wide receiver 51. That's astounding to me for a 1st round wide receiver. So it would not shock me if he ends up going up a full round. He could even end up by the end of the summer, if you get some hype videos, him or Denzel Boston, being picks that like hover around pick 100. So I just love that you can access cheap players like this. And I think people forget, like Garrett Wilson, Justin Jefferson, these were wide receivers that in their rookie year were going past wide receiver 50 because everyone looked at the situation and said like, I don't really know what to do with this team. It's more on betting on target earning ability on a team that desperately needs and clearly drafted players. So this is more of a Casey Concepcion. I think he can be one of these sneakier picks. And if you look at the Browns for week 16 game, that's in Baltimore, and then at home against the Colts in week 17, like those are interesting correlation plays for me.
Yeah, one of my favorite kind of picks back-to-back in rounds right now, and I'm not sure I'm sneaking this by anybody, but it's just like, if you need wide receiver help in that range, Josh Downs kind of goes around there. Come back in the next round, KC, you've got a little week 17 mini. I've been doing that quite a bit. But I'm with you. It's like in today's kind of landscape where running backs are going earlier and quarterbacks are all pushed up and in weird, like some quarterbacks are cheap, too cheap. Some quarterbacks are too expensive. And so it's kind of this like big quarterback window from like round, 5 or 6 to like round 10. And if you miss the window, like you're kind of done. If you invest in running back early and you draft a quarterback early and you kind of need some wide receiver upside, Casey Concepcion is just sitting there. And I understand it's the Browns and there's the stink of Cleveland and all those things, but I'm a Todd Monken guy. I kind of think he can do some fun things this year and maybe unlock the offense a little bit. I'm not saying they'll be top 10, but maybe just be functional. You've got some pieces here in Judkins and Fannin and Concepcion. Quarterback play is going to limit the offense, obviously, but just bet on the 1st round wide receiver who could earn targets and was efficient in college. And it's not always going to work, but at his price, you don't need it to work for the full season. He could be a second half of the year guy and really help your best ball team. So I love this take with Concepcion.
All right, quick little question here about the Browns. Let's say you're playing in a large field tournament and you have Concepcion or maybe you have Fannin. Are you taking a stab at either quarterback as your quarterback 3, because you're really taking them with your last pick. That's where Watson and Sanders are going. And we don't have definitive news right now at this point of the calendar. So is there anything you're telling people in the strategy, like stay away? Or because we're big Monken fans, like, okay, this is my 18th round pick, and I'm just going to guess which quarterback it is and complete a stack?
I've done it once so far, and it was not on purpose. It was a situation where...
But how do you feel now?
Terrible. I've already counted that team as a loss in the loss column for the best ball tracker this year. It was a team where I just got boxed out of quarterback, and I was like, okay, well, I have KC. Guess I'm taking Deshaun Watson, and I don't want to be doing that. Like, our ranks will not reflect that is good advice, but it was one of those teams where I just needed a quarterback and got boxed out. So no, not right now, but maybe in August when we get definitive news, we'll see.
I have Watson very much ahead of Sanders if I had to pick one.
I think that's kind of how the winds are blowing, as they say, but we'll see.
Number 5.
Last year, Kyle, could you imagine not being in on Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars?
Duval.
Hit it again.
Oh, okay.
Duval.
I mean, that is the sound of a winner right there. Liam Cohen. Oh, man. It was such a good start to the Cohen era with that drop. And then obviously we got to see the great stuff that he brings to an offense, right? You saw Trevor Lawrence like truly get unlocked for the first time in his career. And now looking forward to this season, nobody knows what to do with the Jaguars, right?
Liam Cohen, Coen.
I just found this out writing up the primer. Kyle was like, you know it's spelled Coen. I was like, wait, what? I thought there was an H in there.
My nephew is spelled the way that you usually do it, Cohen. So I get it. But I like you and I were conversing back and forth. I was like, you know it's Coen.
I did not know that, but I know that now, so you learn something new every day. But anyway, going back to kind of what to expect this year, it's really tough, right? Because you're thinking about how do the target shares work here with Jacoby Myers and how much is Travis Hunter playing and is Brian Thomas even good anymore? And apparently Parker Washington is amazing. And so it's really tricky to kind of stack up this team because we think they're going to be good, right? You want to bet on continuity. You want to bet on good play callers and good schemes and all those sort of things. And I went into this process with the primer saying to myself, I don't know that I want to be so dogmatic and saying I'm only taking Jacoby Myers or I'm only taking, Brian Thomas. I wanted exposure to all these pass catchers and to Trevor Lawrence because of what they could do in the second system. And then I looked at the betting markets and I was like, wait, hold on a second. This is a team last year that was fourth in offensive touchdowns per game. So being in on Lawrence last year and being in on the Cohen bump was probably one of the sharpest moves in best ball. Of course, it didn't work out for Brian Thomas, but like if you took Travis Etienne, if you took Trevor Lawrence, some of these later round picks, Brenton Strange, like it all worked. At the same time, though, the market is telling us just hold on a second, like pump the brakes. They're 18th in average implied team total, and they're only favored in 8 games this year. The strength of schedule goes from 6th easiest last year to 15th. And then you have the kind of the natural regression signal of Trevor Lawrence from week 10 on with a 7.5% touchdown rate and 8.1 YPA. So I find myself on both sides here where it's like, I want to bet on this offense, but the market is saying we probably shouldn't copy and paste what we saw last year. And so that becomes this whole new dynamic of like, man, I wanted to go in on the Jags this year. And now after doing some of this research and running up the primer, I might be an underweight stance this year. So where do you land on the Jaguars? They're fascinating for 2026.
I'm going through my rankings right now and just seeing where I'm at compared to ADP. So I'm ahead of market on Baishal Tutin, which I think I've been there. Yeah, it looks like he was RB 26 for a long time, and he's kind of moved in a direction where I could see him, like in redraft circles, he's like RB 23, 24. Like I could see him moving up, especially if we get news. So I've just kind of been ahead of market on him.
Dude, the first week of training camp, when he gets the first carry with the ones, the ADP will move.
Yeah. Chris Rodriguez is at 111, and I'm basically a little bit behind, but it's whatever. I think Thomas has been the one that I've been ahead, and he's moved ahead of all the rest of the guys, kind of created a round distance from Parker Washington. Jacoby Myers, I'm behind ADP because he's not good.
Dude, come on. Respect Jacoby, okay? This man's he's made a great NFL career. He's got paid. Come on, Kyle.
I'm down with Brenton Strange because can you really poke holes in any tight end once you get past pick 140. It's like,
No,
sure,
of course not.
this guy can work at tight end too. So I think I'm fine. I'm just not aggressively like going after them in a way where it's like I have to have Jaguar stacks. And you brought up a lot of the Trevor Lawrence regression stuff. So they're fine. They're fine. And the fact that we were lower in the win totals just says like there'll be a team that I have bits and pieces. If Lawrence falls to me, I'm fine with it. I'll have some tootin', but I'm just not super bullish on this team.
Yeah, I was just surprised to see the betting market be so down on them after what they did last year. That's all.
I'm with you. All right, let's take a quick break. We got a couple more.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
Designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it. And now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
Windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying... Just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom. Hold my hand.
You hold my hand. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Number 4.
It would not be an episode of the DFS Betting podcast if I couldn't talk about the Chargers. Right?
Draft them? Print?
So that's my point. It's my... I bring this up in the Best Ball Primer, and I'm bringing it up right now on the podcast. I feel like I am buying this team, which, come on. Just replay clips.
For the 5th year in a row.
Yeah, replay clips of me. I feel like I'm buying this team, but I was writing down, I don't know how the targets are going to be dispersed because the system that's being brought in, if you look at their moves in free agency, it's offensive line stuff. It's bringing in Charlie Kolar as a blocking tight end, David Njoku, who doesn't have a ton of money guaranteed, but like he's David Njoku. Alec Ingold, who was a key fullback in Miami with Mike McDaniel. It signals to me that we're going to have more 2-wide sets than I think we want from this team. So just looking at the way that Ladd plays, 64% of his routes were in the slot last year. If you look at what he did with 2 wide receivers on the field, it was just 10% of his routes, 1.23 yards per route run. It was really, really, really bad. So I love Ladd McConkey. He is one of my favorite players in the league. Are we going to get more snaps where I feel like Quentin Johnson is the easiest player to project for playing time? Are we going to see a lot more Trey Harris than we want? Or the other thing that I'm playing around with is, are they going to make Ladd McConkey their Jaylen Waddle? Like, are they going to make him this versatile threat on crossers where he can be dangerous and not a slot-only weapon?
I hope.
That's what I want, but like when I look at projections and I see the price that you're paying, wide receiver 20 is not cheap to me.
I think he's fairly priced for the upside case that could happen.
But that's why I'm looking at the downside case and going like, I'm investing in a player that is going to be probably my wide receiver 2. Or if you go wide receiver early, I feel like there's a downside case for a player that's not really a red zone threat.
I just want to buy the Chargers.
What?
Like, this is a new thing for me. I finally opened my eyes to be like, the Chargers are it. Mike McDaniel, right? Like the stink of like the Dolphins offense the last 2 years, I think is kind of just maybe too recency bias. Like, there were some incredible seasons with Waddle and Tua and Tyreek, and like that was 22, 2023. But like those offenses are at the top of the board in EPA per play and scoring and yards per play and efficiency through the roof. And now, obviously, the last couple of years, he's had to kind of curb things down. They had injuries. Tua had the concussion risk, so they saw the ADOT get dropped insane. Tua really struggled with accuracy over the course of the back half of his tenure in Miami. It's like, man, give Mike McDaniel this offensive line that gets their tackles back, this running back, this quarterback. I think good things are going to happen. So I think Justin Herbert is going to have one of those outlier seasons. I've been fooled before, but I really, really am buying Justin Herbert. And so if I think that happens, like, I just want to rotate through these guys and take shots and not necessarily be so concerned about who's the 2 wide receiver sets guys. Obviously, that will help. For this scoring system on half PPR, I think Quentin Johnson is an unbelievable pick right now. Like, we made fun of him after his rookie year. To his credit, he has gotten better every year in the league. And when I think about some of these play action shots and some of these efficiency type of performances from Herbert, like on a touchdown heavy site, I think Qge is really interesting. So I have taken some Trey Harris late just as I didn't get Qge, but I have Herbert. Like I'll throw him in there. I'm kind of in line with market on Ladd. I don't want to overthink this as far as his talent and his target earning ability with an upgraded scheme and play caller. So in general, I'm buying.
I just have him grouped. I'm looking at the wide receivers. It's Jalen Waddle, Ibuka, Terry, and then he's right there with Jameson Williams, Luther Burden, and Ladd McConkey. I have him as at the end of that tier. So I'm like ahead of market on some of those guys, and then Ladd I'm slightly behind.
That's a really good area to be drafting wide receiver this year, I think.
Yeah, no, so I'm excited about those guys, and I obviously like Ladd, but Johnson's one of those players. The thing I haven't mentioned yet is I'm just really bullish on the running game. I think that's going to be part of the offense that feels like it's going to hum, and it's been a thing with McDaniel where they have 2 running backs. So I'm fine with Hampton where he goes in your drafts as a second-round pick, and I think Keaton Mitchell is a really fun later pick. I do think you need to wait on him and Vidal later on in the summer. I think you'll see a mix, but they're going to mix in these dudes, Mitchell and Vidal.
Probably.
So, Chargers, what could possibly go wrong?
Number 3.
All right. Is it time, Kyle, to talk about the Eagles?
Okay, so behind the scenes, guys, whenever Betz brings up the Eagles, he really does do this. I'll share this. He goes, I don't want to bring up the Eagles because I don't want people to think I'm a homer. I just want to give the data, and then you can direct the conversation, Kyle.
It's so fascinating, right? Like, the Eagles, and this is kind of like the Rams this year, where it's like the year prior, they were incredible. Therefore, they will go early. And if you recall last year, Saquon Barkley was like the 2nd or 3rd pick off the board. Jalen Hurts went early because of the rushing upside. A.J. Brown has never been cheap, and Devontae Smith has never been cheap. And so the conversation last year was like, man, it's going to be really hard for Saquon to do what he did in 2024 when they had that incredible run and he's ripping off 50-yard touchdown runs. Like, that's obviously not going to be sustainable. But I do kind of feel like we've swung too far the other direction. And so I just wanted to kind of talk through Philly because the betting markets are still saying this is going to be a pretty good team. They're favored in 13 of 17 games. They've got the 7th easiest strength of schedule. And per Warren Sharp's pass defense efficiency metrics, they're projected, which, it can change based off injuries and such, but projected to face the 2nd easiest pass defense schedule in the league. So I think about, like, could this offense surprise us? And not necessarily surprise us in the fact that we haven't seen it be good before, but just right now, the recency bias on Philly has been, it was so hard to watch last year. They were terrible under Patullo. Hurts doesn't want to run. Hurts doesn't want to do under center. Yada, yada, yada. Like, we kind of know the FUD right now. And so I think there's a buying opportunity because when you look at Sean Mannion, where he's come from with Green Bay, there's a lot of talk about under center, a lot of talk about more play action and trying to use some of these kind of like Shanahan, McVay concepts. And yeah, that's great to say, but you have to actually do it, and we'll see if he can. But I know you and I were looking at some of the splits for Hurts and Saquon from under center recently, and it's been a very small sample size, but when they have done it, it has been ultra, ultra efficient. Jalen Hurts from under center this past year, 8.3 YPA. 2 years ago, it was 7.9 YPA. With play action, obviously, we see a jump there. In 2024, it was almost 9 yards per pass attempt. Last year, 7.4. Like, I think we could just see an outlier, like, oh, wow, we were surprised that it was that efficient type of situation. And then for Saquon, his yards per carry, his explosive rush rate, all of those things are better when Jalen Hurts goes under center. And that's what they're talking about right now at OTAs. So if the betting markets are saying, still a good team, should still score plenty of points, and they're cheaper in drafts, and we think the scheme can be upgraded here to unlock some of these guys. I don't want to be a homer, but I'm kind of buying right now, especially at these costs. I mentioned on Jayden Daniels, like, you can push him into the 70s. The other day, I got Jalen Hurts in 82nd overall on DraftKings, and yeah, it's different over there, but like, that just seems crazy for a guy who's been able to score so many touchdowns with his legs. But what are your thoughts on Philly this year?
I have Saquon Barkley. This might feel a little risque as my 10th overall player.
I love it.
It's one of the stronger stances we both took, but I took it early in the process, and maybe it's psychological, but you're saying it's like there's always this either or. What did I just see last? And yeah, his under center numbers were awesome in 2024, which, by the way, every number of Saquon in 2024 was off the charts. But it was good last year, 4.92 yards per carry, and it just kind of dropped off, and the whole offense dropped off when they kind of were this predictable pistol or shotgun offense. So I like that they're cheaper. We're going to have to obviously wait on A.J. Brown news. You might know before we know. You'll figure that out. But DeVonta Smith, of course, I'm ahead on him. Like, he basically functioned as a wide receiver one on this team. He saw 29% of the team's first read targets. That's like wide receiver one. That's like Nico Collins level for his team. That's what he saw. And he saw it with A.J. Brown there. So I'm in on that. I don't really know what to do with Mekhi Lemon. I don't. Like, I thought about moving him down a ton of just like, people are baking in this price. He's the third highest rookie that's being drafted this year. And I don't know his role in the offense. So I don't know. Where are you on him?
I think he will make his way onto the field in 2 wide receiver sets sooner than later. I'm a little bit behind right now in rankings, but I do think that it's tricky, right? Because there's part of me like the historical rookie ADP viewpoint, and then there's also like, what is he going to be on this team viewpoint? I know you put this out there about when the rookies have been drafted, like he's kind of going in the range, like maybe not as late as where Ibuka went last year for the early part of the summer, but I could see his price rising, and so I don't want to miss the boat on Mekhi Lemon, especially after A.J. Brown news does finally hit. So I haven't taken him a ton recently, but I might bump him up a little bit.
I did. Funny little talking point here. Mekhi Lemon is going as the wide receiver 35. Last year, there was a rookie wide receiver that ended up going as the wide receiver 35. And his name, Matthew Golden.
That seems silly to me.
That's where we were taking Matthew Golden at the very end. That's his final ADP.
Might need to take some more of Mekhi Lemon.
Okay, so is it because you like, does your love for Mekhi Lemon, or is it your hate for Matthew Golden? Which one is fueling you more right now?
The latter.
Okay. Love your honesty.
Number 2.
All right, let's talk about a team that, I don't know, just won the Super Bowl, Seattle Seahawks. It's difficult when you look at a team that has this much talent as an NFL team, and their ADP is JSN going at 5th overall. We're not going to say anything negative really about him. Jadarian Price, who might see his ADP continue to rise over the summer, and we've talked about him for really a month or two of like, hey, this is where this has gone, is going at 57th overall, but then there is not another player that ends up off the board until the 12th round. So
that's wild for a Super Bowl champion.
Yes. So I'm doing the whole Brian Windhorst, I'm pointing my fingers, and I'm asking myself, is there any value on the Seahawks? Because Rashid Shaheed is your classic better in best ball player that you and your mother knows this, that Rashid Shaheed's better in best ball.
She knows everything. She's great.
Like, that's, in my generation, we had Will Fuller. Like, that's who we had. But it just seems like there's a lot of value here. But I'm looking at Sam Darnold. I'm looking at some of his numbers across the board. I'm even looking like what he did from week 10 on, where he averaged 218 passing yards per game and just 1 passing touchdown. They don't always need him to win games. Like, they don't need the volume. And he's always been a player that's lived off of efficiency. Whenever I see those two things together and I go like, this team was really healthy last year, there's just enough variables there to say like, man, I worry about a drop-off in Sam Darnold efficiency, but I think I can buy in with a pass catcher who's way too cheap. So is Shaheed that guy? AJ Barner's cheap enough if you want to do that. Torrey Horton's a rookie. Elijah Arroyo at the end. Like, are you looking anywhere here? Because we're not drafting Zach Charbonnet.
Right. Yeah, the tricky thing is like, I don't know how to draft this team because, like you said, there's just natural regression that's going to happen. JSN averaged 11 yards per target. That is not a sustainable thing. Sam Darnold, at the same time, his YPA is certainly going to come down. So you ask yourself, okay, if those two things happen, does the offense just get worse? Like, are they good enough to win 10 games, but they're not actually the offense you needed? And so I find myself kind of stuck on Seattle, where it's like, if I take JSN, which I'm not fading him by any means for obvious reasons, it's just like, if I take him, I'll take some teams with Darnold, but I'm not like trying to go out and get this stack. If I do have a Seattle stack, I mentioned this before, right now in May and June, when we're just like, who even is running the routes? I've taken Cooper Kupp. enough that hopefully by the time we get to August, I can just stop taking Cooper Kupp to meet my exposure goals for this year. So I have thrown a couple darts on Kupp. I've also taken a couple shares of Emmanuel Wilson just because, like you said, we are fading Charbonnet and we'll probably continue to do so for a while. But yeah, I think they're a tricky team because it's like they should win some games, but they were just so efficient last year. And the thing that I think nobody's talking about is Kubiak is gone, and his scheme has been so good whenever he's been playing the play caller.
Yeah. Fleury is their offensive coordinator that was in San Francisco. Sam Darnold did have that 1-year stint in the Kyle Shanahan system. So there is some familiarity. There's a chart that I came up with earlier this offseason about JSN, and I cannot tell you how many times I've looked at this chart, and it's blown my mind every single time of, here are JSN's stats per quarter. So like in the first quarter, he saw 45% of the team's first read targets. Second quarter, 49% of the team's first read targets. Third quarter, 38%. Fourth quarter, 46%. And his yards per out run are like in the high threes in every single quarter.
It's honestly hard to even wrap your head around how good he was last year.
Yeah, it's the McMahon meme, like, how was, prime JSN? And you'll just be crying because it was everything you could ever want and more. So I can't say anything bad about him. I just think Shahid's probably the one that I'll have the most of this secondary group.
We'll see. I mean, I hope they give him more routes. Like he was, I think, a totally fine, especially best ball, right? Like you mentioned, he's kind of your best ball archetype. When he was in New Orleans, like he was totally fine at this cost as a wide receiver. So we'll see.
Number 1.
All right, this is our last one. We'll tackle this one together, but it's really just a reminder and a do's and don'ts with best ball. And every year when we put together a list, we just want to remind you that this top 300 list is there as a reference, not gospel. The best thing you can do is to make it your own. So you can actually copy or download a CSV of the ranks. You can do that directly from the website. And then you can compare, if you want to compare us with another site, if you want to compare us to ADP, if you want to organize it by team stacks, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to create my own ADP because I think it is more accurate than Borg or Betz, you can do that and take an average of what your ranks are going to do. Play around with this stuff because at the end of the day, like best ball ranks, like if you have a stance on a certain backfield or a certain situation or a certain player, you can track like, hey, I was here on this player and ADP moved, and therefore I don't have to keep taking this player when the rest of the, off-season things change. So my biggest insight and biggest tip is like, make this your own.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think too with the rankings, like it's fun, it's clean, it's easy to have a top 300 list and see all of that. But so much of this game, especially in best ball, is contingency situations. Like if X player gets hurt, well then, the wide receiver that was going 3 rounds later is obviously mispriced. And so you just think through those range of outcomes. And as we always say, draft as if you're right. Like we talked about some of the concerns on some of these teams this year. If you have a different take and you're in on these teams, you should draft those teams and you should assume that what you are doing is correct. Because in general, you want to think through range of outcomes, but when you're actually on the clock and you're picking, Terry and Jayden, like you shouldn't be worried like, oh, what if the Commanders aren't that good this year? Like you've already made your bet, right? And you should stick to that. So, and you're going down with the ship, buddy. So yeah, just think through range of outcomes is the last thing I'd say. And then as well, when you are doing that, draft as if you are right.
Thinking of range of outcomes, Jayden Daniels, just to end the show on this. So last year, through his first 6 starts, I'm looking at his pace, 153 rush attempts. Okay. As a rookie, he was at 148. And he had an even higher scramble rate. So at the beginning of the year, the results weren't great, but Jayden Daniels was running the way we want to. I looked at every single quarterback since Lamar. So remember when Lamar broke out in 2019, he broke fantasy. Every single quarterback that's been quarterback 1 in that span in points per game, it's been Lamar Jackson, it's been Josh Allen, and they've all had at least 100 rush attempts. Jayden Daniels is going to way, way, way surpass 100 rush attempts. In his range of outcomes, could he be QB1?
Oh, for sure.
And yet, he's so much cheaper than last year.
I was looking at the projections.
I
got my app pulled up. It's a lot of rushing. That's all I'll say.
I mean, I like the Jayden Daniels call. I feel like we'll have a lot of him this year. We're going to continue to be ahead of market. Betz, sign us off.
Oh, man, I can't believe it's here, Kyle. June 1st. The primer is up. The ranks are up. The Ultimate Draft Kit is out. Go get it. Go check it out. Enjoy. Have a great week. I'll be back next week to talk more best ball. See you then.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
You never forget your first fan.
So how was practice, kiddo?
My mom inspired me to dream big and ask myself, what would you like the power to do? My answers helped me become the soccer player I am today, trusting my instincts and stepping onto the pitch without fear.
Bank of America champions U.S. men's national team member Tyler Adams. And everyone who dares to ask, what would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of U.S. Soccer and FIFA World Cup 2026. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.